Hey, welcome back to another video, and today I'm diving into one of the most talked about keyboards of the year. This is the Ajazz AK820 Pro, and it might be about to redefine the term budget, leaving you wondering, do you really only get what you pay for? Let's dive right in and see what all this hype is about. Let's kick things off with the unboxing. The packaging gives off major black and red gamer vibes, but let's crack it open and see what's inside. While the main attraction might catch your eye, let's start by taking a look at the accessories first. Inside the box, you'll find the user manual detailing all the keyboard shortcuts and features, a USB Type-A to Type-C cable, and a keycap and switch puller. While these accessories aren't anything special and you don't get any spare switches or keycaps, they'll definitely get the job done. Let's get back to the keyboard itself. It comes wrapped in plastic and is protected by a dust cover, a feature you rarely see on a $60 keyboard. Before I dive into my thoughts, let's go over the main specs and features of the AK820 Pro. The Ajazz AK820 Pro comes in at $59.99 on AppleMaker.com. The board features a 75% layout with 81 keys and a rotary knob. It's got tri-mode connectivity, meaning you can connect via Bluetooth, 2.4 GHz dongle or wired USB-C cable. It also features a 4000 mAh battery. Now, let's jump into my thoughts on this keyboard, starting with the aesthetic. I opted for the white and purple variant, and I must say it's one of the most elegant looking boards I've had the pleasure of testing. If the white purple variant isn't quite your style, there's also this blackish grey version that might better suit your taste. In my opinion, the light pastel tones complement the white case perfectly, making for a very visually appealing keyboard. The AK820 features a 75% layout, so you get your function wrong. I can't quite describe it, but this board feels more compact than the usual 75%, and I like that. The case is made from an ABS plastic and feels remarkably sturdy and well constructed. You know that feeling when you pick up a keyboard and it just feels light and scratchy and just flimsy? Well, this is not that. Historically, most keyboards I've reviewed in this price range have had notably flimsy build quality, so I'm extremely impressed with how solid this thing feels, and it is only $60, remember. The sound profile of this keyboard blew me away. With its smooth, soft, creamy tones, I couldn't resist typing on this keyboard beyond testing purposes. Circling back to the price of this thing again, I was amazed by how good of a typing experience the AK820 provided. I would almost go as far as to say that this is one of my favourite typing experiences on a plastic keyboard. As for stabilisers, they're plate mounted, and on my unit I was very pleased with their performance. There was no rattling or ticking present, aided by the considerable amount of factory lube. You don't have to worry about tuning them on the AK820 Pro. Let's flip this thing over and take a look at the underside. Underneath, it's quite busy. First off, there's a rubber pad in each of the four corners, so it won't be sliding around your desk. It features height adjustable feet with 2 tiers of adjustment. I was pleased to see that Ajazz didn't cut any corners here in order to pass on this incredible value to us. Next, we have the 2.4 GHz dongle. It's magnetic, so no complaints about the placement. On the contrary, I think it's a nice way to prevent the dongle from protruding out of the edge of the case. You also get some toggles on the underside. You can switch between Mac and Windows operating systems, as well as toggle between your 3 connection modes. Lastly, I'll point out the information and quality control stickers. With all that packed onto the underside, let's move to the back edge where you'll only find the USB-C port. It's positioned slightly off to the right from center. I'm assuming this was some sort of cost-cutting measure regarding the placement of the PCB. On the front edge, you do have Ajazz's logo, which yeah, it would have been nice to have a clean branding free edge, but at least Ajax have a clean logo. Alright, let's flip this thing back upright and take a look at the surface of the AK820. You'll notice 3 indicator LEDs, caps lock, windows lock, and a battery level indicator. Now, I just find it bizarre how Ajazz managed to include a screen on this keyboard. It's a 0.85 inch screen with some useful information like the date and time, as well as the battery level indicator, and it also displays your current connection mode. Let's move on to the rotary knob. Its primary function is media control, allowing you to fine-tune your volume up or down with each bump, or use the tactile click to toggle mute. This knob actually gets really smart with its direct integration with the screen. If you press function and click the knob, the function of the knob changes to operate the screen with this menu system. Really cool, and again, not something you'd expect to find on a $60 keyboard. With that being said, if you desire, you can turn the screen off using the function and home shortcut. Whilst we're up top, let's talk about these keycaps. They're cherry profile made from a PBT plastic, however I wasn't able to find out which legend printing process was used. They look double shot to me though, and the legends are super crisp. As mentioned earlier, I'm a huge fan of how these keycaps look. The sharp professional look of the cherry profile, combined with the clean cuts on the case, makes for a really stylish looking keyboard. For the gamers, it's worth noting that these keycaps are not shine through, but that's more of a consideration than a downside in my opinion. Diving a layer deeper, for switches I've gone for Ajazz's gift switches. These linear switches feature a 5-pin design requiring about 45 grams of operating force, placing them on the mid to light scale. I really enjoyed how smooth and easy these switches were to type on. They produce both a smooth, creamy sound and feel. The factory lube job on these switches was excellent. I'll have a link in the description for the software that comes with the Ajazz AK820 Pro. This software allows for extensive customization, including key remapping, macro creation, RGB modes, and as well as changing what displays on the screen. You can choose to either go freehand or upload an image or GIF. The software itself isn't great. It's usable, but you shouldn't have to use it very often. The battery is a respectable 4000 mAh. For those of you planning on making this your gaming keyboard, it features N key rollover, which is one of my top recommendations when looking for a keyboard for gaming. If you don't know what that is, N key rollover allows you to press and register several keystrokes all at once while maintaining the correct sequence. The board comes with per key RGB, offering 19 pre-programmed lighting presets. However, as mentioned earlier, you can fine-tune this via the software. Now, I know if I don't cover it, I'm going to get questions about choosing this or the F75. First off, if you aren't a fan of the color schemes on the AK820, you won't be disappointed with the blue theme on the F75. In terms of typing experience, they're so close that I struggle to pick a winner. If I had to choose, I would ever so slightly give it to the F75. With all of that performance, let's take a quick look at the internals that are accommodating it. If you want to open up this board, I recommend getting a prying tool, but make sure it's plastic so you don't scratch the board. I'm using this one from Lego. Before going any further, make sure to unplug this single cable from the PCB. With that cable unplugged, let's take a look at the main component sandwich. There's a PET film, an IXPE switch pad, and a pour-on plate foam, all sandwiched between the plate and the PCB. Speaking of which, the plate is made from polycarbonate, and both it and the PCB feature lots of flex cuts, providing a soft, even typing experience across the whole board. The PCB is 5-pin hot swappable with south-facing LEDs, so if you like to experiment with alternative switches, you can do that. The AK820 is also gasket mounted using these silicone gaskets. Typically, silicone gaskets wouldn't provide quite as much bounce as their foam counterparts, and you can see that from this side angle. However, it still provides an acceptable amount of bounce. Moving into the bottom housing, there's a layer of case foam followed by a large silicone sound dampening layer. As always, it's time to play the sound test before I leave you with my closing thoughts and recommendations. So yeah, for just $60, I find it nearly impossible to recommend a keyboard with a better typing experience in terms of both sound and feel, not to mention how good it looks. If you're currently in the market for a new keyboard and are considering this one, I wholeheartedly recommend that you go ahead with it. Even if you aren't strongly considering the AK820 Pro, I recommend you reconsider. With the volume knob, screen, sophisticated sound dampening, you're getting way more than you pay for here. So I completely recommend this keyboard to just about anybody watching. That concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider liking and subscribing, because your support is greatly appreciated. A huge thanks to EpoMaker for providing the products featured in today's video. Rest assured, my thoughts and opinions remain unaffected and unbiased. If you're in the market for a budget piece, check out my review on the Owlet F75. Alternatively, check out my last video right here.